Well, welcome back to the saga of the hydroplate theory. We are moving along. We finished up with a letter from Pastor Lee, where you have a new one. New character enters the scene. His name's Jeremy Schuler, and we'll see what he has to say to ICR and see what their response is to him. And we are going to show you how to do this. Again, I'll share my screen with you. And so it's just going to go in, and you can look at these documents yourself. I had a scare. You go into hydroplate.org, go to this hydroplate resources. And about 10 minutes ago, when I pushed this, it would be file page not found, error 504 or 404 or whatever. And so I called up, but it's working now. So this is it. You can go into the hydroplate timeline, which is a really neat tool. And we've read a lot of these letters, spent a lot of time on this mediation notes. Pastor Lee jumped into the scene there. He did some updates there that we did not read. This was a letter from to ICR and back. And now we are jumping into this one here. This is 2008. We're jumping into January 11th, 2008. And it's really neat. You just click on it, boom, and it brings you to the right letter. It says January 11th, 2008, letter from Jeremy Schuler to ICR in response to their email of January 10th. So this is where we go. Oh, maybe we should start with the January 10th one. Yeah, let's do that. All right, January 10th email. Which dot are we looking at? January 10th email. That's probably where we want to be. Yep, we go from 2008 to 2000. Wait a minute. Went from 2008. January 8th, 2008. Ooh, lots thickening. December 26th. Okay, so 2007. Yeah, we did that one already. Oh, maybe not. Letter from ICR to Pastor Lee in response. Okay, yeah, that's the one we did. So we're going to boy, good thing we did this. Okay, we're going to get this in order. December 29th, 2007, email from ICR to Jeremy Schooler in response to his email of December 26th. I didn't see a December 26th. All right, so let's just want to make sure we got these in order. Oh, December 26th, email from Jeremy Schuler to ICR. I think that's December 26th. Okay, here we go. A little bit, but we got it. We got the very first one. Here we go. We're going to read them in order. December 26th, email from Jeremy Schuler to ICR. Okay. So this is 18 years ago, almost to the day. Okay, Jeremy Schuler. To whoever can answer for ICR, my name is Jeremy. My dad has received your monthly newsletter for at least 20 years. I have only recently, 1 year ago, received Christ as my personal savior. I have learned about a theory for the flood known as the hydroplate theory. The author of this theory is a man named Walt Brown. Has your institute looked into this theory? Do you agree with Walt Brown's theory? Why or why not? If not, is there a theory that you specifically adhere to that I might study? Are there any specifics you can give me about this topic that may be helpful? I realize this topic can be very exhaustive, so I am not looking to debate or take too much of your time. I'm simply inquisitive for the sake of the search for answers. I realize you are a long-standing scientific institute, and I'm interested in your thoughts. Thanks for any information. Jeremy. Okay. And so then we can go on to the email from ICR to Jeremy Schooler in response for his December 26th one. Okay, yeah, we need to do this. We're going backwards for some reason. All right. December 29, 2007, email from ICR to Jeremy Schooler in response to his email of December 26, 2007. Wednesday, December 26, 2007. Dear Mr. Schuler, thank you for contacting our ICR. We praise God that you now belong to him. In addition to the following information, I am enclosing a general apologetic above that will help you better understand our position on creation science. ICR does not have an official position about Walt Brown's science. However, ICR respects Dr. Walt Brown's expertise in physics, mathematics, and military logistics and his position as a young Earth creationist. Due to his physics specialty, the hydroplate theory focuses on the Earth's surface and the mechanics of the separation of the continents. ICR scientists hold to the catastrophic plate tectonics theory. Both theories have a lot in common, but there are a number of geological factors that play a role in our differences on the topic. Dr. Brown has discussed his ideas with ICR scientists and, for the time being, agrees to disagree. We share a common belief as Christians, as young Earth creationists, and as scientists. In her critique of Dr. Brown's geological abilities, one of our geologists says, Dr. Brown is a physicist, engineer, ? Not a geologist, nor even a geophysicist. Like Michael Ord and many other well-meaning and sincere creationists, he stepped way out of his field, yet speaks with the same level of authority as if it were his field. His hydroplate theory should never be compared with the same level of seriousness as catastrophic plate tectonics. He has never welcomed peer review or any level of criticism, as far as I know. This is a grave mistake, in my opinion. His ideas look very impressive to someone not trained, but believe me, they are utterly laughable to one who has any training in geoscience. Dr. Brown's hydroplate theory poses some technical problems that have yet to be resolved before it could be considered for publication in ICR literature or in the view of ICR scientists, although research on both Dr. Brown's hydroplate theory and the continental drift theory is still continuing. There are many unanswered questions, such as following. Let me just take a break. Let's make this a little bigger for you. Okay, there we go. All right, back at it. Okay. There are many unanswered questions, such as the following. Bullard's model, requiring the shrinking of Africa area by 35% to accommodate continental fitting, is not used by the conventional plate tectonics theory. There is insufficient, number two, there is insufficient space to accommodate movement of supercontinental size hydroplate plates around the Earth's surface. 3, water pressure from subterranean chambers would have a vertical component that displaces water into the atmosphere rather than into the oceans directly. 4, tidal effects on the proposed chamber 10 miles below the surface would have already caused rupture in a matter of days after they were created. 5, the evidence exists for the layer of free-floating basalt. What evidence exists for the layer of free-floating basalt between the subterranean waters and the Earth's granite upper mantle? What? Free-floating basalt between the subterranean waters and the Earth's granite upper mantle? Where did he get that? 6, seismic boundaries defining ocean ridges, subduction zones, transform faults and collision zones are not accounted for by the continental size hydroplates. 7, seafloor spreading from a ridge axis such as the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is the foundational theory to conventional plate tectonics and is not exclusive to the hydroplate theory. And 8, there is a lack of evidence that leading edges from continental-sized hydroplates form from hot magma erupting from the ridges. There is a lack of evidence that leading edges from continental-sized hydroplates formed from hot magma erupting from the ridges caused the post-flood intensity folded sedimentary rock associated with overthrust and transform faults. This complex subject has historically been the object of much speculation or debate between geologists and scientists for many years. Although there appear to be numerous similarities between the two theories, the geophysical and seismic evidence would ultimately favor a lithosphere, such as that described in the plate tectonic theory, consisting of multiple segments or plates that are in motion with respect to one another and that are continually moving, changing shapes and size. ICR scientists prefer the catastrophic plate tectonics model in explaining flood processes because they believe that the plate tectonics model with the molten mantle explains the breakup of the continents better than the hydroplate theory. This catastrophic model of plate tectonics involves very rapid movement at the time of the flood. ICR has instead proposed its concept model of plate tectonics as follows. The topic of geological development, e.g. Pangea, continental drift, and plate tectonics, is not agreed upon by all Christian scientists. It must be understood that there are good creation scientists who prefer the separated continents existed at creation, and others who have other separate theories. The research of ICR has many good arguments to support a Pangea breakup due to the flood. Therefore, geological development should be approached with an open mind. Please see the following information. In Genesis 10:25, we read, "And unto Eber were born two sons, and the name of one was Peleg, for in the days was the earth divided. For in his days was the earth divided, and the brother's name was Joktan." Peleg means division, and he was apparently given the name by Eber because of the great event that took place just before his birth. He may also have given his name to the Palestinians. Some Bible teachers believe that this verse refers to a splitting of the single post-flood continent into the present continents of the world through the modern scientific model of seafloor spreading and continental drifting. However, the verse seems to refer more directly to the division into families, countries, and languages. Consequently, it is believed that a split in the continents was more likely to have occurred in connection with continental uplifts terminating the global deluge. Psalm 104. Thou coverest it in the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. They go up by the mountains. They go down by the valleys into the place which thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. A clear timeline chart to help explain a creation timeline from creation to a divided Pangea is not clearly known because the Bible gives us no clear references. However, the following information may be helpful. 1. Annals of the World. Originally published in 1656, this work traces world history from creation through AD 70. Chronological presentation of material with numbered paragraphs, 8 appendices, and fully indexed. Includes CD of Usher's chronology of the world with full color charts, graphs, timelines, and more. 2. Hardcover with box, CD included that contains contents of the book. 3. Excellent Bible history charts by John Whitcomb can be found online at Bible History Charts. 4. Excellent timeline at abiblestudy.com. We read from dividing the earth in the days of Peleg. To determine when Babel and the confusion of languages occurred, we need to have a few points of reference as to time. The biblical record indicates that the flood occurred in about 2348 BC or 2247, 101 years later. We read that Peleg was born in whose days was the earth divided. The word Peleg, according to Young's analytical concordance to the Bible, means literally an artificial watercourse. The Hebrew word Peleg occurred 16 times in the Bible, 7 times as the name Peleg. It occurs 9 other times, all of which are translated to read river. We believe this is the key to understanding how the earth was divided. In Ron's book, Discovering Noah's Ark, he writes how he believed the waters of the flood were frozen at the poles, extended outward, covering approximately half of the earth's surface, by the great wind that dried up the waters that were where the ark was resting. Some of the glaciers we know extended down to approximately 40 degrees north. At some point in time, there was a massive volcanic activity which caused some of the glaciers to melt, forming a water melt inland seas, which suddenly burst forth, rising the sea level and separating the continents. This, we believe, occurred after the confusion of the languages. When the people left Babel and traveled to the various parts of the world, this would result in isolating various groups of people as well as animals on continents and islands. thus accounting for the strange animals in places like Australia, Guada, the Galapagos, Galapagos that are found nowhere else on Earth. It would also account for separation and isolation of many races. Okay, for those people just tuning in right now, this is ICR's response to somebody asking about flood models. So they're explaining their catastrophic plate tectonic flood model. Okay, ICR scientists believe that the forces produced the Noahic flood caused plates to develop. The topic of geological formation, e.g., Pangea, continental drift, and plate tectonics, is not agreed upon by all Christian scientists. It must be understood that there are good creation scientists who prefer the separated continents existed at creation, and others who have separate theories. The research of ICR has many good arguments to support Pangea breakup due to the flood. Therefore, a geological development should be approached with an open mind. Please see the following information. We just read this. 2 sons. Okay. In Genesis 10:25, we read, "And unto Eber was born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for the days of the earth were divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Peleg means division, and he was apparently given the name by Eber because of the great event that took place just before his birth. He also may be given the name to the," yeah, we read this, "through his modern scientific models. However," okay, we read that. "Thou coverest it with the deep as with a garment. The water stood above the mountains." Yeah, we read that already. Dr. John Morris says in his article, "What happened in the days of Peleg?" But while continental separation was well supported, it is still unproven and very likely improvable. Many competing concepts have been proposed in the geological literature, and serious difficulties remain, the weightiest of which is the lack of sufficient mechanisms to move the continents. In fact, the most viable concepts are coming from young Earth creationists, employing the overall flood scenario as the mechanism and timing for the separation. At least the distribution of the Earth's surface at the time of the flood has the potential to move continents. But any scheme of rapid separation would itself cause havoc on the Earth. If the Atlantic Ocean opened up rapidly, the destructive tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanoes would make life impossible on Earth. For this reason, I am convinced that Genesis 10:25 should not be understood to imply in the days of Peleg at the Atlantic Ocean opened up. This would have caused devastation comparable to Noah's flood, and the Bible has no mention of it. If the continents separated, they did so during Noah's flood. The traditional interpretation relates Peleg's day to the division of language, families, groups at the Tower of Babel, comparing the lineage of Shem and others, including Peleg, to the lineage of Ham, which included Nimrod, leader of the rebellion at Babel. We find it likely that Peleg was born soon after the dispersion, assuming the genealogies are complete. Thus, it would have been reasonable for his father Eber to name his son in commemoration of this miraculous event. One separator did occur sometime after the dispersion, the Ice Age, which followed the flood, would have caused sea level to be an estimated 600 feet lower than today. Since such a great volume of water was trapped as ice on the continents, such a lowering of today's seas would reconnect the continents once again. The connected continents would have aided in both animal and human migration following the flood, both the flood and the dispersion, as commanded by God, Genesis 8:17 and 11:4, 8, and 9. Then the ending of the Ice Age and the melting of the ice sheets would cause the sea level to rise, covering the land bridges and dividing the continents after migration had occurred. Okay, now back to the email to Jeremy Schuler. Dramatic changes in hydrology, geomorphology, pressure, and weight shifting may have triggered the continental plates to start moving. With the present rate of continental drift at 2 inches, 5 centimeters per year, and a projected time frame of 4,500 years from the flood to the present, the initial annual rate of separation between continents could have exponentially greater. However, old earthers estimate of ridge spreading of 6 centimeters for 70 million years, total of 420 million centimeters, or 120,000 kilometers simply are too excessive, since the entire surface of the Earth is reportedly a mere 39,350 kilometers. Consequently, a recent Earth of 8,000 years fits the data much better as follows. The supercontinent Pangaea supposedly began to fragment about 160 million years ago. CF Plate Tectonics, Crustal Evolution by Kent Condy, page 29. If we assume that this fragmentation marked the time of the Ring of Fire, and the average total individual plate movement occurred during the past 4,000 years, allowing for a 500-year post-flood ice age, was 1/5 the Earth's circumference, 20% of 39,350 kilometers, or close to 8,000 kilometers. Then it would have averaged 2 kilometers, 2,000 meters, 200,000 centimeters per year. Although it appears to have slowed to the current 5 centimeters per year, it could still have begun at a very rapid rate, characteristic of magma eruptions, 80,000 kilometers per year, 136.2 miles per day, 5.68 miles per hour, 500 feet per minute, 8.33 feet per second, or 2.5 meters per second. Contemporary lava flows speed up to 23 miles per hour or 10 meters a second have been measured in Hawaii. However, in a non-channel advancing flow front aqueous environment, that's water environment, an average rate of 2.7 meters per second appears to be a more reasonable estimate. Thus, the range and speed theoretically might have been from 85 million centimeters per year times 60 minutes per hour times 24 hours per day times 365 days at the onset to the present reported 5 centimeters per year continental drift rate. One could then construct a crude logarithmic curve to plot the estimated range and movement over distance and time and determine the best fit for a more accurate estimate of the initial separation itself. I hope this helps you in understanding the meaning of the biblical references, the basics of continental drift, and the possible numbers involved, considering also that continental drift is still a theory and not a proven fact as a mechanism for explaining the present location of the continents around the globe. Recommended products in the beginning: catastrophic plate tectonics and the Genesis flood. What? That's not in the beginning. Okay, wow. In the beginning, catastrophic plate tectonics and the Genesis flood. How did the Genesis flood happen? A radical new supercomputer model of catastrophic plate tectonics developed by Dr. John Baumgartner at Los Alamos National Laboratory shows how runaway thermal subduction may have caused the breakup and flooding of Pangaea and the early supercontinent. The Genesis Flood. This is a book which many recognize as having started the modern revival of creationism and catastrophism. Although it has gone through over 32 printings, it is still the most definitive treatment of the biblical and scientific evidence of the global flood in the days of Noah. Biblical Catastrophism and Geology tract. This is an updated version of a paper originally presented at a meeting at the Houston Geological Society in 1962, while Dr. Henry Morris was professor and head of the civil engineering department at Virginia Tech, about a year after the publication of the Genesis flood. It summarizes the evidences presented in the book for biblical catastrophism, as opposed to the dogma of uniformitarianism, which was then dominant in the study of historical geology. The biblical framework of history, centered on creation, fall, and flood, is shown to be more effective in interpreting geological data than the framework of evolutionary uniformitarianism. Bones of contention: the most thorough examination of all the supposed pre-human fossils that has been published, with thorough refutation of all evolutionary influences that have been drawn from them. Lubenow is both a scientist and a theologian. The book contains 11 charts, 4 illustrations, and extensive documentation. Evolution. The fossils still say no. An updated and much enlarged edition of Dr. Gish's classic book, Evolution. The fossils say no. The most compelling critique available anywhere of the supposed key arguments for evolution. The fossil record Duane Gish documents in detail from the writings of evolutionists themselves the complete absence of any true evolutionary transitional forms among the billions of fossilized animals in the Earth's sedimentary rock. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Footprints, oh wow, okay. Footprints in ash. Relive the most extraordinary geological event of the 20th century. A geologist gold mine remains the aftermath of the eruption, landslide, and mud flows. No natural disasters in recent history can compare with the variety of processes which resulted from the tectonic and volcanic event. Okay, we'll just hit the titles here. You can read about them if you want. Geological Evidences, recent DVD. Grand Canyon Monument to the Flood, excellent resource. The Geology book, Mount St. Helens, Explosive Evidence for Catastrophe, DVD. The World That Perished, The Fire Below Us, reminds us Mount St. Helens. For further examples of God's comments on the creation, see Appendix 6, the universality of the deluge. Universality of the Deluge. A Defender's New Study Bible by Henry Morris. Wow, I've got a lot of these. For many years, ICR scientists have brought forth substantial evidence that relates to a young Earth. An excellent example for ICR research about age indicates the RATE project, which has involved experts in geology and physics using their combined efforts to evaluate conventional dating methods that have been used by evolutionists to declare billions of years for the age of the Earth. We read the following from the main ICR RATE online information page. Before we do that, I want to see how many of these resources I have. Okay, in the beginning, I got Walt Brown's in the beginning, not this one. The Genesis Flood, got that one. Bones of Contention, got that one. Evolution, the fossils still say no, I've got that one. Footprints in Ash, have that one. Grand Canyon Monument to the Flood, I think I've got that one. I think that was one of his talks. Mount St. Helens, Explosive Evidence for a Catastrophe, I think I have that one. Okay, now this is the quote from the RATE project. There's exciting new scientific evidence which supports the biblical teaching of a young Earth. Scientists associated with the Institute for Creation Research have finished an 8-year research project. For over 100 years, evolutionists have insisted the Earth is billions of years old and have arrogantly dismissed any views contrary to this belief. However, a team of 7 creation scientists have discovered incredible physical evidence that supports what the Bible says about the young age of the Earth. The scientific research project is called RATE, which stands for Radioisotopes and the Age of the Earth. This 8-year project was deemed important since various dating methods are the number one icon of evolution that supposedly reveals billions of years for the age of the Earth. The 7 primary scientists saw its completion in November of 2005 when ICR hosted the RATE conference on November 5th, 2005. The RATE scientists presented their findings to over 2,300 attendees. Thousands, not millions, products. The RATE project concluded November 5th, 2005. 3 products resulted from this product. 1, Thousands, Not Millions, a layman book about dating method research. 2, Thousands, Not Millions, a layman's video about dating method research. 3, the RATE book, 2nd edition, a technical book about dating method research. Note, the free download of the Radioisotopes and the Age of the Earth, Volume 1, can be obtained by clicking on the free download. Radioisotopes and the Age of the Earth, Volume 1, the RATE book is a definitive resource on descriptive dating for every scientist's library. Whether evolutionist or creationist, it examines radioisotope theory, exposes its plaguing problems, and offers a better alternative. Purchase information. The products that are hyperlinked to the ICR bookstore can be ordered online ordered online bookstore or by calling ICR customer service. They can be shipped anywhere in the world. Catastrophic erosion can take place in a short time, as commented on in the following ICR articles. And you can look at those related articles, and you can look at those. All right. For more information, please see the Answers in Genesis section, Noah's Flood, Questions and Answer. Furthermore, many other fossil facts can be found in the Answers in Genesis website. Well, good for ICR. And specific, okay, also, are millions of years required to produce biogenic sediment in deep ocean by Ariel Roth, Geoscience Research Institute. Also, the entire subject is masterfully covered in the classic book, The Genesis Flood, by Doctors Henry Morris, considered to be the father of the modern creation movement, and John Whitcomb, a highly respected seminary professor, teacher, writer, and creationists. The products that are hyperlinked to ICR online bookstore can be ordered online or by calling customer service. They can be shipped anywhere in the world. Best regards, Bruce Wood. Okay. So Bruce Wood replied to this email. When did he reply? This is to Jeremy Schuler. Okay, December 29th email. Jeremy Schuler. This is the December 29th email. Okay, and I think there might be a response to this. We'll go down December 26th, December 29th. Those two seem to be out of order. Okay, and then the January email, January 8th, 2008 email from Jeremy Schuler to ICR in response to their email of December 27th. Okay, Jeremy Schuler writes ICR regarding, do you know Walt Brown? All right. Bruce Wood. First, the answer to your subject line question is no. I have never met Walt Brown or talked with him. I have come to know Walt's theory through my pastor, who is quite convinced of the hydroplate theory. Okay, this is from Jeremy to Bruce Wood. Okay. I did not plan on replying to this email when I had sent you the question originally, but because of the response you have given me, I feel it is necessary to reply. I must say the fact that ICR's critique would begin by saying something about Walt Brown's credentials is alarming. Instead of, it seems wiser to talk about the theory. Since the topic of geology has been brought up, what are ICR's thoughts about Walt Brown's explanation of the Grand Canyon and how it relates to the flood? In my mind, it looks like a political attack when a person with a strong scientific and biblically sound idea is automatically discredited because of their past experience by a scientific Institute for Creation Research, Christian Researching Sciences. I do not mean to sound like I'm accusing you or ICR, but thank God for not taking that approach with us. In fact, but thank God for not taking that approach with us. In fact, God has very often used someone that is least likely or unexpected by human peers. On the other hand, it seems to me that any body that is still talking about the kinds of force that would be required to move a continent or to flood the earth with water from the great deep, Genesis 7:11, would need an understanding of engineering. Geology does not really seem to matter when talking about these forces, except to tell us about specifics about the rocks that we are talking about, i.e. densities, masses, and locations. Geology also should help to show proof that things happened the way that they did or did not. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a geologist someone who studies the Earth's physical history and the rocks associated with it? Excuse me. I have to admit that I have not yet read the book you have included. Your book may have answered those two questions, but I would like to ask them anyway. Where did the water come from, and where did the water go, according to the catastrophic plate tectonic theory? I would now like to take a look at the 8 questions you posed about the hydroplate theory. First, I would like to make it very clear that I am by no means experienced or formally educated on this subject. Because of my lack of experience and education, it is very possible I am misrepresenting the hydroplate theory or even other facts that I am not aware of. With that said, here's my layman's attempt to reply. Number 1, the hydroplate theory does not hold to Edwin Bullard's model of continents fitting together. While Brown talks about this on page 96 to 97 on the 7th edition of his book, he also lists more reasons why the model does not work. Number 2, I do not understand the statement. This may be a bit simple, but if the continents are here, is there not enough space for them? Number 3, that is exactly what the hydroplate theory says. Obviously, there would be some water pouring out through the crack in the crust on either side. Oh boy, we should be going back and forth. Yeah, let's do that. What is he answering? Yeah, instead of going back and forth, let me just open up another window. Pardon me, you can take a break for a bit, stretch up, do some push-ups, get a drink of water. We're going to go answer these one right next to the other. If this works, it works. Okay, we're going to do the timeline. This is where it'd be nice to just have a list of them, but we'll see. All right, so we're heading over. We are reading. We did those already. Nope, we didn't. Okay. It'd be nice to just have a list of letters. Okay, using the timeline. Yeah, this is, all right, here we go. It's a great tool to show what's happening when. Okay. I think we're reading the second. No. Jeremy's response. Okay. Wow. Okay. Email from Jeremy. Okay. Man, I wish these were all just in order. Okay, Jeremy Tense, email from CR. Yeah, I think that's it. In response to January 8th. No, we want the one before that. In response to their email. Jeremy, this has got to be this one. There we go. From ICR to Jeremy. So which, they gave the list. Okay, here's the list. Bullard's model. Okay. And he explained that there's insufficient space to accommodate movement to supercontinental-sized hydroplates around the Earth's surface. So he responds, I do not understand the statement. This may be a bit simple, but if the continents are here, is there not enough space for them? And then number 3, water pressure from the subterranean chambers would have a vertical component that displaces water into the atmosphere rather than into the oceans directly. Well, it's called rain. And he says that is exactly what the hydroplate theory says. Obviously, there would still be some water pouring out along the crack in the crust on either side and coming down as rain. Number 4, tidal effects of the proposed chamber 10 miles below the surface would have already caused rupture in a matter of days after they were created. Number 4, the tidal effects would have created a lot of pressure, which is what the hydroplate theory says. If there was this kind of water under the crust of the Earth, it would have a massive amount of pressure that would easily turn the bottom, the side closest to the water chamber floor of the crust, into more like putty rather than rock. The rock would literally be pliable. It would flow into any weak spots or cracks and then seal them continually. It would, in a sense, be like a mortar between bricks, sealing up any weak spots. Number 5. What evidence exists for the layer of free-floating basalt between the subterranean waters and the Earth's granite upper mantle? Where did he get that? I don't know. Why do you ask? The hydroplate theory states that basalt was below the subterranean water and granite was above the water. Number 6. Seismic boundaries defining ocean ridges, subduction zones, transform faults, and collision zones are not accounted for by continental-sized hydroplates. Okay, number 6. He said subduction is something that has to do with the plate tectonic theory and is a point to be discussed because it does not seem to make any sense. To say that a plane simply dives down into the mantle to say that a plate simply dives down into the mantle without any explanation for the extreme pressure it would take to do so is odd to me. It seems that an explanation should be required. There are many other questions concerning subduction. Walt addresses these questions in his book, so please read the sections in Walt's book concerning ocean ridges and subduction. Actually, all of the things you say are not accounted for by the hydroplate theory. Actually, all of the things you say are not accounted for by the hydroplate theory are in fact easily explained by the basics of the theory. Number 7. Seafloor spreading from a ridge axis, such as the mid-oceanic ridge, is the foundational theory to conventional plate tectonics and is not exclusive to the hydroplate theory, to which he responds, okay. Number 8. There's a lack of evidence that leading edges from continental-sized hydroplates formed from hot magma erupting from the ridges caused the post-flood intensity folded sedimentary rock associated with overthrusts or transform faults. Okay. And he says the question falls under question and answer of number 6. The evidence is in the theory itself. If the things explained by the hydroplate theory occurred, then sedimentary rock would have folded. The statement made here by you is based on the thought that the plate tectonics theory is a fact, which it is not. It is a theory. Any theory should be able to stand up to critique, or it should be thrown out, or at least taken back to the drawing board and reworked to be able to answer the critique given. Again, let me make it clear that I am by no means an experienced, educated person on the subject. May I suggest that questions be brought up with Walt Brown? He has listed ways to get in touch with him in his book and on his website, creationscience.com. Please let me also address Peleg. According to the Strong's word Peleg in Genesis 10:25 is Strong's number 6389 and means division, with the root word of number 6388 that means small channel of water, river or stream, and then that word is rooted in the word number 6385, which is to split or divide. You stated that the verse seems to refer more directly to the division into families, countries, and languages. I think that is clearly talking about division of land or the earth's surface. I have come to this conclusion because of the word earth here in Strong's number 776 and meaning land or surface of the earth or countries or ground, and a few other key words like these, none of which seem to point towards the division into families. I think that division into families or groups of people would have came in the Tower of Babel, which would have been near the same time. But I think that this is the reason that God inspired the verse to be written in the way that it is, in order for us to be able to distinguish the differences. You also cited Psalm 104, 6-9, which I see as making the point very clear that we are talking about the lands being divided by water and not families being divided. I must point out it is very disheartening to see the way that ICR is answering my email. Judging by the questions posed, it does not seem that ICR has even read Walt Brown's book in order to grasp what his theory is. I'm making an assumption by saying that you have not read the book, so please correct me if I am wrong. Let me please make it very clear that I only feel this way because I have very little formal education and yet was able to see that ICR was not handling this topic very well at all and does not seem to know the theory. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I think that ICR owes Walt Brown a very sincere and public apology for so grossly misrepresenting his theory. I have to assume that I am not the only one to receive this type of response from ICR concerning the hydroplate theory. Ultimately, the science behind the flood or creation is something that is a secondary part. Excuse me again. Sorry about that. Okay. Ultimately, the science behind the flood or creation is something that as a secondary part of any Christian's life with the love of Christ within his body and expressed to others being most important. I sincerely hope that as a scientific and apologetic organization, I assume that as Christians, the first and foremost goal is to reach the lost, that ICR would read Walt's book and take him up on his offer to anybody to discuss this topic publicly. It is not glorifying to ICR or Walt Brown that a conclusion should be reached, but glorify God by making a strong case for his creation and the flood, and therefore possibly leading many to Christ. It might mean that either Walt or ICR will have to recant some statements that they have made concerning the theories either one holds to. Judging by the attitude I see in Walt's writings and on his website, I think he would be more than happy to recant anything he has said that can be proven wrong. I would even think that he would be willing to show where there is a reason to question his theory at a specific point if somebody would show him such a spot. Is ICR willing to recant something they have said or published that can be proven to be weaker than they may have originally thought? I feel that this is the job of an organization such as ICR. These are both theories. Neither one has proven to be totally factually, and these are both theories. Neither one is proven to be totally factual, and both should be treated that way. I can honestly say that I see this attitude in Walt Brown, and I am quite discouraged by the attitude I have seen in ICR so far. When I wrote to you, I knew that ICR adhered to the catastrophic plate tectonics theory. I fully expected to see a credible reason why the hydroplate theory is not sound. I am an evangelist that wants to be sure I am not telling somebody something that cannot be withstand critique. I am disappointed, to say the least. I want to again make the point that I am not a formally educated man. This is the very reason that I have replied to you. The fact that I can see the misrepresentations you are making about the hydroplate theory makes it quite clear that there is a problem. Because of the response that I have received from you, I'm going to forward this conversation to my pastor because he is very familiar with the theory and can provide some insight. He will probably forward it to Dr. Brown. I will also give a copy of it to my dad and anybody else that asks for it. Thank you for your time and effort in this matter. In service in Jesus Christ, Jeremy Schuler. Good for him. Okay. So ICR is going to respond. January 10th, email from ICR to Jeremy Schuler in response to Jeremy's email of January 8th, 2008. From Bruce Wood. Dear Jeremy, thank you for your thought-out response despite the acknowledged statement you made several times about not being well educated. You are to be commended for your willingness to discuss and examine evidences. For example, you strive to reply to the 8 questions below in truth, and with all due respect, I honestly do not have time to reply to your submitted information. Oh, okay. That's how we play the game. In many of my college and seminary courses, I was often told that information given was not to be considered as the ultimate truth regarding a scientific theory. The student must evaluate and research the topic further until he could accept a particular viewpoint and back it up with reasonable evidence. ICR scientists have indeed recanted some of their earlier viewpoints. ICR founder Dr. Henry Morris, for example, did significant studies on the Noahic flood to find that God did not use evolutionary ways to form the earth. Thus, Dr. Morris gave up his belief in theistic evolution and exchanged it for a literal creation week. 2, the canopy theory, once held by ICR scientists, has been withdrawn in part because of new information that has that has contrary data that disallows for 40 days and nights worth of water above the earth. You are amiss in your idea that ICR is attacking Dr. Brown in any way. Please reread my opening statement with my emphasis. ICR does not have an official position about Walt Brown's science. However, ICR respects Dr. Walt Brown's expertise in physics, mathematics, and military logistics, and his position as a young Earth creation scientist. Due to his physics specialty, the hydroplate theory focuses on the Earth's surface and the mechanics of the separation of the continents. ICR scientists hold to the catastrophic plate tectonics theory. Both theories have a lot in common, but there are a number of geological factors that play a role in our differences on the topic. Dr. Brown has discussed his ideas with ICR scientists and for the time being agrees to disagree. We share a common belief as Christians, as young Earth creationists, and as scientists, unquote. When it comes to the evaluation of various scientific topics, ICR scientists are knowledgeable about conflicting data from other viewpoints, but nevertheless argue for their particular view, being satisfied with their research to support it. In defending his theory, apparently, Dr. Brown has avoided intense scrutiny of it from other scientists and is not a specialist in this field, according to one of the quotes I gave you below from one of our experts in this field. Quote, he has never welcomed peer review at any level of criticism as far as I know. This is a grave mistake in my opinion. His ideas look very impressive to someone not trained in geoscience, unquote. 2, ICR does not enter into lengthy discussions or debates in many creation topics. The hydroplate theory is one of them, suffice to say. You must do the footwork, and come to your own conclusion on this topic. Unfortunately, time does not allow me to help you much more in this area or with your excellent viewpoints. I have inserted an attachment above on our views on plate tectonics. All in all, Christians should indeed conduct discussions in loving and respectful manner, as you said. Taking a callous stand on a particular subject is not wise. Oh, okay. Taking a callous stand on a particular subject is not wise, especially when information from other sources could aid in in a better construct of a model. I'm not privy to the thoughts of our scientists on many subjects, so I must ask you to rely on what evidence they have submitted and come to your best conclusion. Respectfully, Bruce Wood. Wow. Email. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Let's do this thing. Taking a callous stand. Uh-oh, can't do that. Taking a callous stand on a particular subject is not wise. Well, it seems to be they're taking a callous stand on plate tectonics, catastrophic plate tectonics. Okay, so that was, what was the date on this? This was January 10th. Email from ICR, January 10th. So January 11th, 2008. Letter from Jeremy Schuler to ICR in response to their email, January 10th. Bruce, I'm sorry to take up any more of your time, but your response requires a response. I am now coming to you for a whole new reason. I am concerned for you personally as a brother in Christ. Let me first talk briefly about your response. Like I said in my original email, I recognize this topic can become very exhaustive, so I am not looking to debate or take too much of your time. I am simply inquisitive for the sake of the search for answers. I realize you are a long-standing scientific institute, and I am interested in your thoughts. The only reason I took time to try to answer the 8 questions you submitted as some technical problems that have yet to be resolved before the hydroplate theory could be considered for publication in ICR's literature or in view of ICR scientists, is to make the point that ICR has not given any serious consideration to the hydroplate theory, let alone at least read the book. My lack of education and my ability to see the ignorance on ICR's behalf, with my lack of said education is evidence of this. ICR ignorance of the hydroplate theory. I am most definitely not looking to debate the two theories. I'll leave that to the pros. You said I'm amiss in my idea that ICR is attacking Dr. Brown in any way. Let me just cut and paste the paragraph you sent me. You are amiss in my idea that ICR attacking Walt Brown in any way. Please reread. Okay, ICR, we read that already. ICR does not have an official position about Walt Brown. ICR respects Walt Brown's expertise, da 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 da. Okay, let me now quote the very next paragraph you wrote with my emphasis. Okay, he has stepped. Dr. Brown is a geophysicist engineer, not a geologist or even a geophysicist like Michael Ord and many other well-meaning, sincere creationists. He has stepped way out of his field, yet speaks with the same level of authority as if it were his field. His hydroplate theory should never be compared with the same level of seriousness as catastrophic plate tectonics. He has never welcomed peer review or any level of criticism, as far as I know. This is a grave mistake, and in my opinion, his ideas look very impressive to someone not trained, but believe me, they are utterly laughable to one who has any training in geoscience. Now the quote you put in your most recent reply from your first response. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's okay. Now the quote you put in your most recent reply from your first response. He has never welcomed peer review or any level of criticism. As far as I know, this is a grave mistake, in my opinion. His ideas look very impressive to someone not trained in geoscience. And now, what you actually said, since some of the sentence is missing. Yeah. He has never welcomed peer review. Da da da. It's a grave mistake. His ideas look very impressive to someone not trained, but believe me, they are utterly laughable to one who has any training in geoscience. Yeah, ... Yeah, we're not criticizing him. Yeah, they are utterly laughable. Oh, that's not. Is it just me, or does all of this look very deceptive? Yeah, exactly. I am going to come out and say what's on my mind. I think that I've been lied to. Let me give a biblical definition from the first 10 commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. The word false is Strong's number 8267, with the meaning of lie, deception, disappointment, falsehood. And the words root is from the Strong's number 8286, with the meaning of to do or deal falsely, be false, trick, cheat. I'm sure you know of the very clear commandment, and I do not mean to waste your time, but I think a point needs to be made. I'm not only talking about in this email, but also in your original. Let's look at two quotes from your first response. Number one is ICR does not have an official position about Walt Brown's science. And number two is his idea looked very impressive to someone not trained, but believe me, they are utterly laughable to someone who has any training in geoscience. This is deceptive, a lie. You went into replying to me in the frame of mind that Walt's work is utterly laughable, yet you wrote that ICR does not have an official position. I would say utterly laughable is a position, and a very sad one of a Christian to have of anybody, especially of a brother in Christ. Bruce, I don't know if you are the one that actually wrote all these things, because it is obvious that some is cut and pasted and some are quotes of others. Regardless, your name is at the bottom, so ultimately you will be held responsible. I believe this is why I said above that I am concerned about you personally. According to Matthew 18, I should do these things about this sin against me, First, I should tell you and ICR of the sin. And then if you and ICR will not hear me, I should bring one or two witnesses. And last, if still you and ICR will not hear them here, then I will bring it to the church. And if you and ICR will not hear the church, then we, the church, should consider you and ICR to be heathens. I am in this email bringing it up to you and ICR. Note, if I do hear from you with a reasonable explanation of repentance, then I will go to some of those who have already seen these correspondences and ask them to write you also. That is, wait a minute. If I do not hear from you with a reasonable explanation or repentance, then I will go to some of those who have already seen these correspondences and ask them to write you also. That is, if they agree with what I am saying in this email, which I will ask them after I send you this email. Next is to bring it up with the church. Because of the large audience that you have, I will consider them your audience, and the rest of the body of Christ, the true church, to be the church that I will bring it up with. I'm just a nobody that has very little in the way of public acknowledgement, but at any opportunity I have, I will share all of these correspondence with others. I want you to understand that my sincere hope is that you will hear me now. I am very worried about the others that may have come to you and not been able to see what I have seen. If somebody, i.e., non-believer, who is searching for answers and looking to you for them and gets the same answers, I have seen, it may send them away from Christ before they have a chance to understand. That is very sad. I think that this is what should motivate every word that comes out of our mouths. Matthew 12:36 says, "But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment." Please consider these things. God bless you. In service to Christ, Jeremy Schuler. Wow. Wow. Pleasures. Okay. And then we're skipping. So we're in 2008 in January, and then there's nothing happens for a year. So let's go up and look at the timeline. Okay. Back to the timeline, hydroplate timeline. What did we just look at? We looked at 2008. So we went through this. We've read all those. This is where the arbitration turned into mediation, and that fell apart. This is where Pastor Lee jumps. Oh, I'm sorry. I should share this with you. Okay, I'm going to, oh no, you are seeing it. That's good. Okay, where was I? Okay. Yeah, click and drag the time. Okay, this is where the arbitration turned into mediation, and that fell apart. Pastor Lee jumps in and he updates it. And then this was ICR. We just did this right here. Boom. This is 2008. Nothing happens then until, oh, what's this? Yeah. Then we have the 8th edition. So there we have it. Okay, so that's where we're at. We're going to jump in at Brown's 8th edition endnotes of 64, and we're going to move on from there. So, I mean, ICR took it. Let's go back here. Okay, let's take a look at some comments of what geology people have to say. I'm going to remove this. Okay. And then I'm going to show you a video about Jane Albright. This was the discussion. Let's see, we want to share a screen and we want to share a tab. Okay, we're going to share solution to the censorship right here. And I think you can see this. Yeah, you can see this. Okay. So solution to the censorship. This is what we saw the Q&A after her interview and the week of celebration. And this is what she says. And we kind of saw a little bit of it in the video. Yeah, so you can see that video. Let's see, what is that called? Let's see, how do we get out of that? Is this? Okay. Yeah, what was that called? It was solutions to the censorship. You can hear, listen to that Q&A, and that was in there at about, I don't know, the 30-minute mark or so, 20-minute mark. So you can see that. And I don't want to, I mean, ICR is looking really bad right now, but they've got a new leader, and hopefully I can show you this. The dam of censorship is breaking. I want you to hear about Dr. Randy Galusa, who's steering the ship there. Okay, so let's yeah, so there we have it. So again, they don't take a lot of the classes that an engineer takes as far as forces, mechanisms, and energy, like what you would need to understand the breaking up of the fountains of the Great Deep. And again, there's new leadership at ICR, and he's offered an olive branch to the hydroplate people. He's given them a microphone, which is a tremendous first step. Tremendous second step would be as if you put the hydroplate theory in your museum. Just put both flood models up there. Let people think. Because the blind chancers with the Big Bang and evolution, they don't allow people to think in their museums. That's all they allow, blind chance. You can't have a creation in that museum. And Christians, we should have a higher standard. We should be, if there's two theories out there, let people think. And there are two theories out there for the hydroplate theory. And let's see which one of the big creation organizations will put it into their museum first. They're they're actually fighting for second right now because Broken Bow, Nebraska has a creation museum called Boneyard's Creation Museum, and they've got the hydroplate in there. And now the battle is who's going to allow us to think first? Who's going to allow us to have both theories there? And I think that Boneyards might have a display that says accurate predictions of each flood model. You can have the hydroplate predictions and the accurate predictions that have been confirmed. And then Fred McNabb says there's roughly 20 of them. And then you can have the catastrophic plate tectonics. And I got an email from one of the leaders there who says they don't make predictions. And then also on that exhibit, you could have the biblical support that distinguishes it from other flood models. And the hydroplate theory has a whole bunch of verses, and the catastrophic plate tectonics has 0. Now, basically, besides the general, flood model. So that's where we're at. And again, this seems to be a grassroots movement. It's the people in charge apparently do not want things to change, or there's resistance in their organizations to the change. So if there's enough support from the grassroots coming in, maybe they'll be able to make the changes and help this fix an injustice to keep going, because this is a powerful evangelistic tool. And that's why we're doing this. Why are we taking all these hours to go through all these documents? It's because there's a theory that's making accurate predictions and it's not being discussed. And that's a tragedy in the creation movement. If we could have, what did they do? One of the letters talked about 7 something of successful people. And when there's 3 stages, one of maturity. One is dependence, 2 is independence, and 3 is interdependence. Could you imagine if these people were mature enough to work with each other? You could have Walt Brown's gift of research and discovery with AIG and ICR's promotion of it. It would be a bombshell, you know? This would be huge to the creation movement. It would be such a tremendous, tremendous blessing. And yet they can't work together. And so they treat Walt Brown as more of a liability than an asset. And that's so damaging to the creation movement. And again, we're just asking Christian organizations to set an example. Let people think in your museum instead of just presenting your theory of the flood. Put both of them up there. And I think the first major, I think the leader in that area, which will lead us out of these dark ages, because we're in the dark ages, you know, there's only a blind chance perspective of the past given in government schools, museums, and media. And we're going to set the example. Who's going to set the example that allows people to have multiple theories so they can think instead of just one theory so people memorize? And whoever does that, whichever one of the big three, you know, allows people to think, I think their donations will go up. I definitely support somebody who wants us to think instead of just memorize. And so we need to vote with our money. And again, thank you again for traveling with me down this journey to find out what the documents actually said and how people are justifying their actions. And it's really a sad, sad state, but it's not too late. This can all be reconciled. It's not too late. Yeah, Walt Brown, he went home to be with the Lord September 27th, I believe. And so it's too late to apologize to him. But there's his family, there's the body of Christ, you know. Let us think. Let us have this powerful evangelism tool. And I encourage people to listen to the Bill Wells interview. He's a fighter pilot, and he says this is such a powerful weapon in this battle, and it's being withheld. And so the grassroots movement, what can we do? We're just people. Well, you can start asking questions. You know, when you start commenting under creation, you know, if there's a creation article or something, just start commenting, you know, especially on Grand Canyon. Go in there and start promoting the hydroplate, you know, and you can do this on the secular mind. NASA, you can start promoting the hydroplate at AIG or ICR or CRS, whatever. Just start asking about the hydroplate. And when you hear creationists speak in public, they have Q&A normally. Ask them, hey, what do you think? You know, why aren't we looking at a theory that makes accurate predictions? You know, what accurate predictions? You just presented this theory. What accurate predictions have you made? You know, start asking questions like that. And then also, you know, can people in your organization, can people support the hydroplate theory and not be blackballed? Because that's what evolutionists do. If you're a creationist, they'll blackball you. And is that happening in our creation organizations too? Will people lose their funding or lose their business if they are seen asking questions about a hydroplate or make a hydroplate video? So that's where we're at. So again, grassroots movement, you know, everybody just do their part. Everybody, you know, somebody can't do everything, but everybody can do something. So I encourage you to start commenting, you know, on the live chat, under the creation videos, you know, to use social media and also in person and even at the museums. I encourage you to get these. Let's just show you this. If you want to get some hydroplate merchandise, let me share the screen. I encourage you to, this is share the entire screen. We're going to share, bring it in there, I hope. Okay, we're going to add it to the page, make myself small. If you want to get some hydroplate merch, it might be a little bit too late for Christmas, but for birthday presents, you can go into, let's see, we're going to show you hydroplate.org. Hydroplate.org. Go into the store and go down to, and there's some good resources there. I highly recommend this Creation Safari Horrors of the Flood, and also Grand Canyon, Puzzle on the Plateau, where Walt Brown's theory explains Zion and Bryce and Canyon lands and the petrified forest. It's just phenomenal. But go into this merch one and go into there and get these shirts. You know, which one is it? Here we go. You know, this is the shirt that everybody should have. NASA scientists work for Walt Brown. And I'm going to wear that to the Creation Museum, wear that to the Discovery Center, wear that to when you hear creation talks. And NASA shocking discoveries. These are all these things that NASA discovered that validate what the hydroplate says. asteroids with moons, peanut-shaped asteroids, earthquakes on moon. Oldest rock on Earth is on the moon. Oldest Earth rock was on the moon, contrary to what our textbooks say. And in spite of them knowing that NASA, they know it's wrong. TNOs came from inside the solar system. Dinosaur eggs and asteroids, salt water. Dinosaur eggs, those are rounded boulders. You can't get rounded stuff in space. They'll have sharp edges. Salt water on moon, ice inside craters on moon, water jetting out of Enceladus, organic molecules in comets, water ice mountains on Pluto, remnant magnetism on meteorites, very little dust on the moon, diamonds in meteorites, frozen carbon monoxide like lake on Pluto, frozen methane in solar system, and Planet X does not exist. These are all things that were predicted or can be explained with the Hydra plate. So I encourage people to get that shirt. And it's $22. And I encourage you can get it in different sizes or shapes or whatever. But yeah, that's a good way. And if you want to, let's see, where else can we go back? Go into the merch, you can get coffee mugs. Have some let's see here. By these waters, the world of old was destroyed, the hydroplate theory, and they've got different ones here. Let's see. But yeah, you can start a conversation at work. And if you want to give gifts, yeah, it's really cool. What's this? Oh, never underestimate the power of supercritical water. So yeah, you can get these for $15. Yeah, I got some around here too. And as long as you're here, let me show you some of these. I was blessed to have somebody share this stuff to me. Let me take this out and let me just grab some of the merch. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, I'm back. If you want to see some of the merchandise, this is what we got. NASA scientists work for Walt Brown. And then you got all those things that we just went through on the back. So yeah, you can get that. Wear that when you go to Creation Speakers. Wear that when you go to the Creation Museum. And here's another one. This is WWB Research Associates. What's WWB? Working for Walt Brown. So these are the things that you can get. And we've also got these mugs. Yeah, this is, what does it say? It sounds crazy until you look at the evidence. And there's another one. Never underestimate the power of supercritical water. And so these are good gifts. And if you want, you can download the 9th edition on a flash drive, give it to them in a mug, and then you can spread the word. I encourage people to invest in God's kingdom, not man's kingdom. Let the world support the world. Let the Christians, if the world's not going to support the Christian organizations, and this is where you can put, and you can help the cause get into the public. And so I encourage you to do that. And hopefully we'll see you wearing one of these shirts at the Creation Museum someday, or at the Discovery Center down in Dallas. And especially at the Broken Bow, Nebraska, Boneyards Creation Museum. So with that, thank you for the journeying with me down this unpleasant path, but it needs to be done because there is a theory that's making accurate predictions, and it could help science advance. It could help equip creationists with an incredible evangelistic tool. And so that's why we're doing this. Hopefully things get reconciled so that the science can advance and the kingdom of God can advance. And so we're asking Christians to be interdependent, use the gifts of each other instead of cutting each other down at the knees. So anyhow, that's why we're doing this. Hopefully we'll see you on the next round, which will be a year in advance. Next year, we're going to jump. So may God bless your efforts that glorify him, and have a blessed day.